Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Nitsitapi, Sutina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Satu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is January 21st, 2025. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy hearing Indigenous content by this Satu Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you to all the previous donors for showing your support. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you or accept your e-transfer at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or your questions. Also, giving a review helps whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And always remember to share to your network what you learned in the spirit of reconciliation and truth. Oki, naganago, meko che stokomaki, nera dago dekot nagotine siku Sarah D. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson. I use they, them pronouns. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11 in Delaney. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clincho Tine Indahe in Satu Dene, meaning many big dog town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name that has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo Bewell from Delaney. His daughter Alice is my now late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act and Post status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act and Post status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the Indigenous 2S LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socio-economic ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed racism, imposed poverty, gendered violence, and land theft. I'm not a social worker, I'm not an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous people, but I just share my journey as a Dene mom navigating this colonial, ableist, misogynistic, racist world in 2024, or 2025 now. I just said 2024, but I meant 2025. I think of all of this today. I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this so-called country named Canada. I hope you see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation. And as a treaty partner, Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from climate change created by colonialism. But I would be part of treaty partnership, part of meaningful reconciliation, and honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As a former drafter, I'd love to teach you more, but you'll have to pay me. Go to nativecalgarian.com for more. So I am so excited to welcome a new friend of mine. Would you like to introduce yourself in your way?
Sure. Hi, my name is Alexander Sterling Harris. I am a Gitxsan Cree Scottish from the Gitxsan Nation. I live on 33,000 square kilometers of unceded, pristine Gitxsan land. We live in a culture of people who basically have had our fists in the air and our hands in the face of corporate for a long time. We resist, and that's kind of how I like to describe the Gitxsan people. We're always up front, we're frontlining and trying to do what's right for our planet and our environment, and to keep these lands beautiful for the seventh generation. Um,
I love that.
I am an Indigenous entrepreneur, and I design t-shirts and apparel with a message for people. So not often, not all the time people like to send their message verbally. So you can wear a t-shirt that kind of delivers it for you, and it's always being said, literally wearing the message on our sleeves.
Yes.
So, please forgive me if I'm not very good at introductions.
I thought it was perfect, and I think it's a wonderful way to like express your nation's pride. As a native Calgarian, I have been a part of the fossil fuel industry. I'm a second generation, and when I experienced systemic racism giving birth to my daughter, I had to really reevaluate all of that. And now, I've led the Wet'suwet'en rallies in front of TC Energy right here in Calgary because this is the root. This is the root problem. So I respectfully understand how you have so much nation's pride, and I'm seeing there's a bit of a shift all of a sudden as of yesterday in our solidarity. I think too we have to be in solidarity with what is about to happen for the next 4 years. So I'm hoping, to always be doing that work with you and with the other nations because mine up in Yellowknife, like Yellowknife, the town of Yellowknife is contaminated with arsenic materials like so you can't even like grow a garden in the summer without arsenic being a main ingredient in your food. And they keep claiming the Canadian government keeps claiming they're going to do some kind of cleanup, and it's like, we'll see, we'll see, and that water it is contaminated now too, and they want to do more development, more mining. So I don't know. I just know that we have to work together, and because I'm in Calgary, I will protest until I die, I guess. We will resist.
Yes,
Yes.
always.
Yes. Well, I'm really happy to have you on. So, what made you decide that Red Nation Apparel for the name, and then just kind of get you going and feel really passionate about this being your business?
Um, well, the name Red Nation Apparel was, uh, I don't have any really special meaning behind it besides that we're, the red people and we're a nation together as one, as far as I'm concerned, despite how many, you travel 150 kilometers, you're in a different language zone in a different nation, and there's like 600 nations across the country, which a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
When it comes to how to address Native people, I noticed is that there's a lot of controversy around the titles that we call ourselves. It evolves with the political climate of the day, where we've gone from Aboriginals to First Nations peoples to Indigenous peoples, Indians. But I like to take on a more of a Drew Hayden Taylor approach when it comes to these titles, and especially when our own people are using whatever one of these titles that they use. It could be the thing that has been ingrained in them due to the time that they were politically active in their day. So I think it's all interchangeable, and not to call each other's out when someone uses the word Indian, and just take it with a grain of salt and be cool about it, because we're all on the same team. And I noticed that some people uh, with the fist in the air are kind of like, they'll call you out and they'll be like, don't use that word. And it's like, come on, man, it's not hurting anything. You just have to look at it in a different perspective, read The Inconvenient Indian, and then come back to me and we can talk about it,
Yeah.
kind of deal. Uh, so
100%. I really appreciate that because I always jokingly say things like, "Oh, I'm just a dumb squaw. What do I know?" And I can say that because I'm Native. I'm a woman, and that horrible sentence has been said to me my entire life. So anybody who wants to correct me can, yeah, screw right off. And part of the reason why I named my podcast Native Calgarian was because I was tired of settlers calling themselves Native Calgarians. Because it's like, oh, you're a native. What nation are you from? And I just said that to them just to upset them. And it was important to me to start saying, like, we got to be careful about non-natives using terms like native because that's not fair. That's not right. Like it's okay to um say my people came from Scotland. 4 generations ago. Cool. But don't call yourselves a native, whatever town you're from. Yes, I know you were born there. It's not the point. It's that inherent right that you don't want to acknowledge in that treaty partnership. To me, that matters a lot. So I always try to frame it in that way, like, who are my treaty partners?
I think nowadays with all the politically shifting terms, the most appropriate way to address somebody is you ask them, "What nation are you from?"
Yeah,
Oh, you're
100%.
Gitxsan. Okay, do you prefer to be called Gitxsan? Oh, great. Okay, now I know. Like you're not Native or Indigenous or
Yeah.
First Nation. You're Gitxsan.
You'd be
You know.
shocked how many people in political service circles of mine, despite all the years I've had this podcast, despite all the years that I've been in their life, they still identify me as a First Nation woman. And I'm like, when are you going to start saying Dene? At the very minimum, like, as you know, that's like Cree. There's so many Cree. There's so many Dene. There's so many. And yeah, there are a lot of folks in my circles that will never do it. They won't identify. And so, yeah, I've been kind of like, okay, look, you've had a good 10 years with me. I think we're good. I think we're good pretending we have a friendship if you can't get me right. Gosh. So yeah, tell me about some of your favorite lines. Tell me about like if I'm listening and I'm like, "Oh, well, what is Red Nation Apparel? Is it just t-shirts? Is it hats? Is it more?"
Yeah, I provide pretty much whatever I can. I've been having a bit of trouble growing, especially online. My growth has been okay. I do events. I've gone to the all native basketball tournament, the junior all native. I've gone to conferences with, like a lot of famous natives were there, SNRK, Jesus, Earthchild. I do events all over BC pretty much. I travel, I sell things, and try to share my business with people. But the online part of uh, business for Indigenous people, I noticed has taken a shift in the last few years. So I'd say somewhere around 4 years ago, we were selling alongside my mother and sisters at a rodeo, and they had beaded earrings, and I had my shirts, and the prices were relatively low as it goes for the beaded stuff. And there was an incident where this YT guy walks up with his native girlfriend and he says, "Oh, I'll give you $20 for those." And I don't want to tell you what my mom said to him, but it was she told him off real good.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. But at that time, the beadwork was not getting like the kind of respect that it deserves. And then soon after, the prices started going up drastically, like massive price increases for the artwork that beadwork really truly is,
Yeah.
and it's getting paid the money that it deserves. And I noticed that a lot of native businesses started taking off. Clothing businesses local around here, there's a few of them. They became very successful, and it seemed like around there 2 or 3 years ago, the the ship was leaving the port when it comes to growing your indigenous business. And it's gotten to a point where I think that we've gotten so much recognition and people have realized how much non-native people and other native people want our art. So that allowed us to bring the prices up high. And it's becoming well, as indigenous people, we're the largest growing business demographic in Canada. We grow more businesses than anyone else right now. And we're making big money and our items are making big money, and a lot of non-native people want the stuff that we sell. So it's created the negative side of business where now the other day, about a month ago, I saw a pair of beaded native earrings available on Temu.
Yeah. Yeah, Timo is the
So
bane of my existence, man.
exactly, so it's like these rip-off cultures have basically caught wind of what's happening in the native communities. So now they're popping up everywhere and they're starting to saturate uh, the environment for us. And now what's happening is that I cannot seem to distinguish myself from these other businesses because some of them they put a lot of effort into it. Their landing sites and their pages and everything involved looks great. And if you're not savvy and you don't know how to look out for, these kind of things where if you go into their information on Facebook and you look into the details and it tells you where the administrators are from, right? And all these native pride pages and all this stuff. You look into the administrative part, the transparency part, and Bangladesh,
Yeah.
Indonesia,
Yeah.
they're most of these pages are anywhere but local. So you really got to like be careful
Yeah.
where you step when it comes to dealing with these pages. So it has me in a corner. Uh,
Yeah, I feel that. I have regularly shown people like please block this and it gets zero traction. It gets zero goings at all. So like we need a good national law to be like you can't appropriate indigenous culture. And I know that's a really difficult ask for a lot of people because I don't I just don't have faith in settlers anymore because they don't share that information and they claim to listen to the podcast but they don't share like I'll give your information, I'll give your website, I'll be like follow this group and then a year later, oh my God, I have no idea where to buy an orange shirt and I'm like I interviewed Red Nation Apparel. How come you didn't order your orange shirt from them? Like, and so there is a disconnect. I don't know if it's just that racism that prevents them from buying indigenous owned and being like, well, it's at least in Indonesia. Like, I don't know why we have such a disconnect there, other than, a settler colonial state doesn't want to listen to our voices and doesn't want to support indigenous business. But, there was a pretty big market there, especially during the time we were talking about reconciliation. Even 2015, I'd say that was like a good 4 years of like, we're going to have these conversations. We're really committed. And then it just feels like it's been tapering off to the point that now we're seeing pushback on any conversation about Indigenous people. And that's really disappointing.
I got a little bit of issues when it comes to so-called reconciliation within Canada um, because of where I'm from. And during the beginning of this, it was all at the same time as when the militarized police were being sent into Wet'suwet'en territory.
Mm,
And at the same on in one hand, over here, Canada's got their orange shirt on saying reconciliation. And in the other hand over here, these militarized police representing Canada wearing RCMP badges, specialized group meant to deal with unruly native people,
yep.
um, are over in Wet'suwet'en territory kicking their asses,
Yeah.
arresting people. Some of the people that we're dealing with that I know are still dealing with legal issues in Canada is still trying to nail them to the wall. Even though the project is finished, it pushed its way through. They kind of won in a way. Um, and so the term reconciliation, I find it's kind of loose when it comes to coming out of Canada's mouth. It's an empty term as far as I'm concerned. And as for the orange shirts, I think the fact that people don't care where they buy them from, honestly, it's a price point as far as I can see. Oh yes, you can get it from Red Nation Apparel for $30, or you can buy it from Indonesia for $15. Well, at the end of the day, I'm still wearing an orange shirt. So, there goes the supporting Indigenous businesses. There goes vetting any kind of fake businesses. You're supporting people who rip off Indigenous people. So, at the end of the day, wearing your stolen Indigenous design and orange shirt, are you supporting anything, or is it just an empty gesture like the
Yeah.
the concept of reconciliation with Canada? So everybody gets to put on that mask and their orange shirt and say, I'm reconciling. But then They don't share information. They don't tell you or their friends where to buy a proper orange shirt from an actual Indigenous business. They're not sharing our posts about murdered missing women or the children who are found all around these residential schools, which for some reason has discontinued
Yeah.
the search, and people aren't talking about it anymore. And by people, I mean the general public in Canada, which is majority non-native people. We obviously still talk about these things in our community because
Yeah.
we live it every
Yeah.
day. It's not a thing of the past. We haven't gotten over anything because my grandmas and grandpas are still alive.
Yeah.
These are people that suffered directly, are still here,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, I think reconciliation is dead, honestly.
Yeah, I respectfully understand why you feel that way and why many of us do feel that way because it is very difficult when you have a call out for, you know, allies and they don't want to get it. They can't come out, oh, I gotta work, I gotta do this thing. Well, it's like, I can't tell you every May 5th. I can't tell you every Valentine's Day. I can't tell you every October 4th. I know when Novembrance Day is. I don't need a special reminder from settlers to remind me in order to go to these events, but they do. Like they don't even see their own hypocrisy on these issues. And to me, it's like, well, you know, September 30th is now a day off for a lot of Canadians, and they don't want to really be honest about why. And, it's such a disrespect, the way they carry themselves. So I know that there are a few that care and they're working on it, but that lack of engagement. So we had a school here named Langevin, named after Hector Langevin, who created the Indian residential schools. And so a lot of natives were like, hey, can we change the name? And they were like, shut up, you dumb natives. We don't care about your fucking opinion. And they still feel that way. We have a John A. Macdonald High School, and they said, yeah, we are absolutely not going to change that name. Um, so there was a few settlers that was like, let's start a committee, and it became a group. And now I try to share their things. But the lack of like engagement from other supposed allies and settlers that claim to be allies, like it's so bad and even non-nate like even our own people like don't necessarily share that information either. So and I don't blame our people because we're all busy living our lives trying to make a go out of a business or just try to survive this colonial state. So I do respectfully understand why Indigenous people don't always share these things, but it is just so deplorable, our relations with people, and they are okay with horrendously racist things being said to us. So I was more hopeful in 2015 than I am today, 10 years later, with our relations because, ultimately I seen the force of the conservatives and the pro industry oligarchy, really, when we did the TC um, protests in front of the TC buildings during you know, a noon on a Friday or whichever, because they paid all of their employees to wear their sweaters, to wear their or take their signs and be like, I love oil and gas. And we had to have two rows of cops, and they were screaming and spitting at me when we lit the smudge. All of the racists downtown were like, are you doing drugs? Like, just horrendous people, and these are my neighbors. So, um, and as you've seen the force against the Wet'suwet'en, I'm yeah, it's really hard. I was mad even when the 215, screamed from the grave. I was like, all of your shock is just proof you never read the TRC. The 94 calls to action are in the smallest little book to make it so easy, and you never read about the, unmarked graves. Uh-huh. Thanks. Thanks a lot. So I felt very gaslit at that time. And I know a lot of our elders were in a lot of mourning, but that's how I felt at that moment. So um, I wish people understood the gravity of our relationship as treaty partners. And now in BC, there's no treaties at all. Like they have zero rights to that land.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We do have a department within our nation that has been trying really hard for a lot of years to push treaties on us, but we know that there has never ever been a positive treaty ever.
Yeah.
So why would we engage in something like that when we already have control of our own unceded territories as the wards of the land and hereditary chiefing system? So it's ridiculous to even consider the concept for us. But I would like to get back to what you said, which I found was interesting, is that you felt that we had more traction and recognition as Native people within the racist climate of Canada in 2015 than we do now,
Mm.
which is actually what I was just thinking about before you said that, is that um, I'd hate to give any traction to he who shall not be named across the border, but I noticed his first term, let's just kind of change his little rhetoric up a bit, but basically, let's make North America racist again, is what happened. It normalized racism within our country, or their country, and it spread right across our border.
Hmm.
And I noticed, no offense to the province there, but Alberta is a bit of a hot spot for racist people. It seems like a little bit of a mini USA in certain aspects over there.
Yeah.
So it must be a little tougher to live in Alberta than it is in British Columbia, I'm thinking.
Yeah. I don't know what that right answer is because I know Manitoba would be the first group in here like, no, we're the worst. We're the worst.
That's true.
Yeah.
They probably have it worse. We don't we don't have Starlight tours in British Columbia.
Mm. We still have them here. Like we have a black fellow that we've been trying to raise awareness about the Starlight tour that happened with him, but he was able to live. But it
Oh
happens
wow.
all the time still. And one of our lead missing and murdered Indigenous women organizers, her was sister was killed not too far from where I live. Um, quite a few years ago, a couple of decades ago. Um, by a Calgary Police Starlight tour. So like it's pretty normalized here still. And
I guess it wouldn't really be fair to point out any province as having more issues than any other because
yeah.
we all have our issues and it's basically, national across the whole country, across the whole I don't know, continent probably that we deal with these issues. We have Native people going missing and killed all the time and it's never ever news and nobody ever cares except for our own people and then on the other side of the spectrum you have a little bi-T girl that gets bullied and um, you know, ends her own life, and it's international news. And then on the other side of the spectrum, that happened to five Native girls, and no one ever heard about it. So
Right?
it's frustrating to live in this climate where nobody gives a shit about us. We're still just the mascots and these mystical beings and all these like fancy bullshit images that people have of us. The latest one that's been frustrating for me is that we've gotten into this whole reconciliation stages. So then you have these people that corner you and they're asking all kinds of questions and they want to know from you directly, the Indian, the information that they're looking for that'll make them feel relieved that, oh, now I've learned this from an actual Indian that now I've done my part, and then that's it. They don't have to listen anymore because they heard it once from a native person. And so I've talked to other people, and they just basically just say no. Go
Hmm.
Google it. Go watch some videos. I'm not here to be your mystical teacher. Like move along. You're being racist right now, basically without knowing it.
Yeah.
So please leave me alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
I started this book club and the lack of engagement. Started the podcast and people aren't actually listening. I have a social media presence and people on the social media magically cannot know that I have a podcast and magically cannot know I've given that information on the podcast and magically cannot know that we've done a book club or two or three or four on a subject that is pertaining to their questions. And like, I'm just like, with deepest respect, I was a nobody when I first started it. I really just did it locally for my community, and then it just started to grow. And then, there are professional journalists. There are professional stories that are out there, professional, well, authors, authored books on these issues. I'm literally just guiding people to the books, to the TV show, to the docuseries, whatever it is. And people still pretend like, oh my God, this information should be so much better available. And it's like, well, you all follow Alex Jones or Fox News. You can't follow, Red Nation Apparel. You can't follow APTN. Like, come on. Like, don't lie to me.
Yeah, I think it's all just part of that mask
Yeah,
of wanting to appear to be that person in this political climate of being called out and exposed as what you are. And, social media makes it easy for people to go ahead and say, point a finger at you and try to cancel you and stuff like that. So
yeah.
people are in fear of having their image tarnished. So they want to at least do the bare minimum where they appear to have this advocacy by wearing a red shirt from Indonesia or a pink or red shirt from Indonesia on their day off, you know, their new day off.
Just wild. Well, what is the latest things that are on your shelf that we should all be buying right now?
Well, I have really struggled online as I said. So I've been basically the idea that I came up with is that I need to make a website that's so clean and well done and so much effort into it that you're going to look at it and say there's no way this is a fake. There's too much going on here. There's too much effort in this page to not be real.
Yeah.
Still, I have not been able to afford to print everything by myself over the winter. I do have a fairly decent amount of stock, which I've tripled or quadrupled in size since the beginning of last year, but it's still limited to the number of prints that I have and types of items. So I created a print on demand online store, which
Nice.
is directly connected to my website, rednationapparel.com. And I have everything that I sell, all my designs available there. And I'm still evolving the website. I'm still building more sweaters and hats and shirts and pants and items. So I have a lot of designs that are not currently in the store, which I will be working through over the next month or two to try to get all my designs out there. And I try to keep relevant too. So when there was that little slip up on the news when we got called indigenous creatures, I was on it. I had a shirt out within days,
Nice.
just to kind of poke fun at the you know the
Yeah,
little slip ups that they make.
100%. No, I love those. And, us being something else, that was one of my other favorite mess ups that they had for sure. So,
That one was fun.
yeah, yeah. So I like those ones. And I'm glad you do that because I love that immediately everybody owned it. That was my favorite part about it. It's like,
It's what we do. We address trauma with humor, and that's how we've made it all this time. And people wonder why we're so funny. And it's like you notice that other cultures have adopted our figures of speech. Like you hear non-native people saying "Skoden" and they don't even know what it means,
yeah.
or like fuck around and find out. That one has spread. That's an indigenous term and it has spread across all nations and everybody says it now. Even racist non-native people use our term happily every day,
Yep.
probably not even knowing that they're speaking indigenous terms.
Well, I as a Satu Dene, I always own that we invented hockey, and it was the first time it was like written down in Sir Franklin's journals. So it's like, yep, Satu Dene, started hockey, and then of course our national sport is lacrosse. All of these are indigenous sports, and we don't get nearly the recognition. And I laughed real hard the other day because Joe Rogan was like, "What is this? What is this sport? Lacrosse? Oh my God, it's going to be huge!" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're such a nerd."
Joe Rogan, yeah, the experience.
Right? Oh my gosh, so funny. So yeah, I get a kick out of the lack of understanding and how mainstream media gets it wrong all the time, and then it makes it funnier. I'm not gonna lie. Listening to people, bend over backwards over themselves to try to, "Oh, it wasn't a Nazi salute," and it's like it was a Nazi salute. We all know it was a Nazi salute. We all had to go to Remembrance Day ceremonies. We know it's a Nazi salute.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God. They're so funny. I'm sure there's going to be a native who comes out with some beaded something that we're just going to laugh so hard. And
Oh,
then I'm going to
I'm
need you to
honestly
make a t-shirt so I can buy it.
I follow this beater that basically the next she's like the next day or two when these kind of incidents happen. The Tyson fight when he was doing his interview and he turned around and he had naked butt cheeks.
That was amazing. And right away
She
she beaded it. Like,
the next day. It was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to the
yeah,
the humorous side that's going to come out of this, even though despite how scary it is,
yeah.
somebody's going to make a joke out of it.
One of my favorite was Bernie Sanders, mad in his mittens, knitted
Yeah.
mittens. Well, like, and that was a medallion the next day. I'm like, that's amazing. And he sat and did the exact same pose yesterday. I'm like, here's, I want to see somebody beating like Hillary Clinton laughing when he said, "We're gonna rename the Gulf of Mexico." Like that was a funny clip, I tell you. Holy. So. Yeah, I'll have to head on, spend my monies and get some cool stuff from you because to me, I think that's the other part is that if people see me, I want them seeing me in your gear. We have a few folks locally that I've had on, and I'm always wearing their earrings or their t-shirts or something too. So, to me, it's important to support Indigenous businesses, and especially if somebody, takes a picture or something, then I want them seeing your stuff. So I'll go online and do an order right away.
My actually the rest of my household they're all artists as well. I actually live in a seven human domicile. That's why I'm in my truck right now. Can't
Nice.
expect everyone to be quiet in a large household. My mom and sister have this business called Deadly Auntie's Trappings, and they make exquisite ribbon skirts and flat stitch earrings, beaded earrings. They have also a massive bead store and it resides inside our house. I think they're crazy, but they have a great business and
But it looks
it's
like that
definitely
anywhere. A lot of people ask me, "Do you bead?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't want to have a storage of $400 worth of beads right beside me that I know me better. I can barely get the reading done that I want to read. I can't imagine trying to bead and read and all the rest of it." So hats off to folks like your mom and your sister, because man,
just a
we
heads up.
need them.
When a beater hears you say that their collection of extra beads is worth $400, they're gonna laugh and slap the knee because
Yeah, it's
that is
4,000.
a yep.
We know that. We know that. I know. I was trying to be generous.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was wonderful chatting with you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with my audience today?
No, thank you all for coming and listening to the Native Calgarian. Remember to like, share, and save any of these podcasts and spread the message because this is a great person we're talking with today, and looking forward to more from you.
Right? And if it is the 21st of January, I want people to be thinking of the Valentine's Day March that's coming up on Valentine's Day. So my hope is that people are going to be thinking, I need to buy a red shirt from you. I need to buy, my gear for the May 5th one too. So, because like we're going to take pictures. I don't know if you want to be seen in the exact same t-shirt both days. So you better order two shirts of different designs, folks.
Yes.
Right on. Okay, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for inviting me. This has been great.
Wonderful. It was so lovely meeting him today. I'm so grateful that you all listened. So as per usual, I did talk about my book club. I'm hoping that you will consider joining us. There is a link in all of my link tree and all my links on our on pin posts on social media to sign up. If not, just send me a quick email at native calgary or nativeyyc@gmail.com, and I will give you the Zoom link that you have to register for. And for February, we're going to be talking about the Senate report that came out about the anti-Black racism that we have here in Canada. So I hope you'll join us for that. And, again, my November book club is The Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Rees. Might be an important thing to be reading considering our political climate. It's always disappointing how like people are about our history and 1812 anyway. If you heard me talk about the Reconciliation Action Group today, I encourage you to join. Again, do your homework. You have to be able to know the 94 calls to action and the 231 calls to justice. This isn't a, oh my God, I'm such a solidarity person when it comes to Indigenous people, but you don't know anything about us, know our rights, anything like that, and don't see yourself as a treaty partner, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, do the anti racism work, read some books about anti racism so you're not perpetuating the issue, just like we talked about today. I want to say thank you to my ancestors, Masi Cho, to my granny, my mom, of what strength looks like through your example. I want to thank my settler father for teaching me to be strong and blunt, my stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian roots. And, through her, I'm a second generation Calgarian. And so I have a bit of a history here, despite I'm relocated as a Native woman. I want to thank my husband, Darcy, Big Buffalo Rock Man, for producing and editing this show. On top of being my husband, my childhood friend, the father of our child, and support down my journey of the Red Road. He has witnessed decades of racism, sexism, and the two of us now unpacking ableism as well in the decades that we've been lucky enough to be together. And it is his 50th birthday coming out. If you want to send me an email of happy birthday, I'll send it to him. To our child, Thunder Pipe Necklace, we are so blessed to learn from you and we are honored you chose us. You give me daily accountability to be a better and stronger person and just a better example that I can do. I hope my daughter and my family will be proud in the future of us discussing these present day issues. I honor the Blackfoot as the elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name, and Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Satu Dene. My humblest apologies to elders, language keepers, as I try to learn proper pronunciation. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. To those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. I also have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for more. The last thing I want to do always is a good touch grass moment because despite all the dark things we talk about, as you are so heard between me and Red Nation Apparel, we just do enjoy laughing at times as well. And I'm just going to give a shout out to Hillary Clinton for laughing her ass off at Donald Trump's suggestion you should rename the Gulf of Mexico. It's hysterical, as is, so many other ridiculous things we are seeing coming out of the U.S. And I just want to emphasize Red Nation's Apparel. Daniel Smith is a traitor to this country, as is Kevin O'Leary. And I just can't even believe we're having that conversation. So I hope that you are following the leadership race happening with the Liberal Party. This is literally you having an opportunity to vote for the next Prime Minister of Canada. And I don't know how long it'll be, depending on the other parties, but at least we can say that we voted somebody in. So I hope you're following my posts on that. If you don't know, you have to be registered as a member by the 27th of November. So at the time of the recording of this, that's only 6 days away. And if you are not registered as a Liberal, then you will not be able to vote in our leadership election. And so if you are 14 years old or older and listening, well, first of all, if you're 14 years or older, thank you for listening at all. I can't believe that anybody does, and I'm always grateful when people do. So thank you. Um, and I'd love to see you all vote in that leadership election. And I always end with side eye to those Calgary Rabbits. Gosh, you're lucky I'm not Tradish, despite my poor little pupper who wants me to be. My cousin responded, or you'd be in my dish. Thanks, folks, for listening.